First, I'd like to thank the Chamber. Congratulations on the great award that you received. To the mob group that presented the flags, thank you for that. And a special thanks to Bob Onaveris. I think he needs some good recognition. This is because of Bob constantly giving back. Thank you, Bob Onaveris. I recognize my wife, Christy, who's here in the crowd, mother of my 10 children. Thanks for coming out today. You know, somebody would have told me 5 years ago I was going to be the member of Congress. I would have quite forwardly told you you're crazy. I got to the point where I could no longer take it anymore. And the fear that I had was that my kids and my grandkids weren't going to be allowed the same opportunities that I had of success. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring, not liking the way, the direction of the country. What I did do is I made a promise to the people of the Illinois 17th District, and it was this. I was going to reject the congressional pension, I wasn't going to take the health care, and I was going to read and understand each and every bill before I voted on it. I've kept those promises, and it's the right thing to do. My dad, who died in 2005, he taught us as kids is that we've got to lead by example. Currently, there's around 7 or 8 different members that have actually followed my steps, and they're also rejecting those pensions and the health care. Last year, we voted to cut our budget by 11%, a total of about $150,000. Last year, I returned $110,000 of my budget back to the taxpayers. You know, we didn't invest in the big fancy offices or give the big lavish paychecks. We did it through communicating through our folks and investing in them for less than 50 cents per constituent. Some of the best cases that we've had, you know, saving the life of a person trapped in Mexico, bringing a mother back who was taken because her visa had expired, all because of constituent services by getting those letters out. And I tell you, I am so humbled and honored to be the Illinois 17th District Congressman. You know, it's just such a privilege. And we've got a lot of work to do. We've done a lot, but we can always do a lot more. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad to be here tonight.
What is the role of government in creating or stimulating jobs? What programs or legislation would you support at the federal level?
The first thing that the federal government can do is to get the boot off the throat of the job creator of the United States of America, number one. What we've done in Washington, D.C. is we've got 30 bipartisan jobs bills that actually are stuck in the Senate that's held by the Democrats. A lot of these are so that we can produce energy here in the United States of America, removing tons of the overregulation and burdens on our American companies, and getting taxes under control. We create an environment of certainty that allows our job creators to create jobs. Most recently, Dave Loebsack and I last year put together a provision for the National Defense Authorization Act, working in a bipartisan fashion. We got done what my predecessor and his predecessor couldn't do in 10 years. We got it done in 5 months by putting the D and R to the side and working for the good of the community. It's the right thing to do. For sure. First off is that I'm actually one of the most bipartisan members of Congress. If you take a look with Dan Lipinski out of Chicago, Dan and I vote together 38% of the time. David Loebsack and I vote together 34% of the time. But folks, if you listen to my opponent, she's talking about magical manufacturing triangles and the manufacturing we have, but there's no ideas at all as to how to fix the problem. I'd be more than happy to give her 30 seconds to give some ideas of how we can fix the problems. We can all talk about shapes and sizes.
All right. Would you like to take the
Yeah, absolutely.
So first to you, Mr. Schilling, we have forecasters have seen businesses owned by women, minorities, veterans, or the disabled as significant contributors to the welfare and future of this country. What are some of the forward-thinking government propositions that can ensure?
I think it's really important to understand is that the Hispanic community basically accounts for one of the largest growing sectors in new business coming through. Women-owned firms account for about $3 trillion annually in the U.S. economy and account for 16% of all the jobs. One of the things I did is on a bipartisan fashion, I worked with Congressman Judy Chu, a Democrat from California, and a fellow member of the House Armed Small Business Committee. And we did a act that it's called Building Better Business Partnership Act, which will help make it easier for women-owned, minority-owned, disadvantaged, HUB-owned, and service-disabled veterans to get in there and actually get business with the federal government and allow them to participate in a mentor-protege program. And I think that's just kind of a small start. There's lots of things we can do to continue to improve and work with those folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, actually, I never ever vote against any bill that sends jobs overseas. You know, I find it very interesting, though, is that my opponent has such a problem with doing business overseas, but yet she's willing to invest in the Janus Overseas Fund. You know, so you can talk all you want about not doing it, but here's the fact. My opponent she's a big proponent of the bring back tax to the United States of America, penalizing our overseas companies like John Deere and Caterpillar and others who want to bring that money back. She wants to charge them 35% back to jobs.
So now we'll move on to a question you will introduce or support to impact academic achievement and equal education resources in the context of our changing dynamics and demographics in the diversity of our schools. Do you support the DREAM Act? What steps can we take to ensure that we are adhering to the process of the deferred action to eligible youth in our communities? Mr. Schilling.
I don't know how we all get all that in a minute, but
how about this? We'll give you guys a minute and a half for this question.
That would be good.
Each one of you. Timekeeper.
You know, look, I've got 10 kids. Each one of my kids is totally different. One might sit down at the table, do their homework without being told. The other one walks around. They don't get things done. I think it's really, really important that instead of taking and putting a blanket across the entire United States of America, we bring it more on a local level. I think that's something that's imperative we do. Instead of teaching our teachers to show these kids how to test, let's take our kids on an individual basis and see how successful they are from when they come in and then where they're at the end of the year. I think that's really important. I'd like to see more local control. I co-sponsored a bill. It's called the A+ Act, which would give local schools and state government the freedom to use the funds how they see fit. Rather than have big federal government coming in and dictating to our state and local folks, here's how it's going to work. In the DREAM Act, look, I don't support it in its current form. I believe if a member, somebody serves in our military, you know, hey, have a day. We have to make the tough choices. We've got an immigration problem. We've got good people that want to be part of this country, and no party is willing to sit down at the table. When the Democrats held the House, the Senate, the presidency, they were unwilling to do it. And the Republicans are saying it's time to put the reform on the table. Both parties come together and put this thing right for the good people that want to be part of the American dream.
Would you like 1 minute to say anything that you didn't feel that you had covered in those three, so then we can get to our last two questions and bring it on home?
May I go first on this one?
Yes, you can.
Congressman Schilling started out this whole conversation by talking about everything he's doing for this district, talked about giving money back. Here's what I'd like to point out. He has spent nearly $500,000 on your dollars, your money, to fund his campaign through taxpayer-funded campaign-style literature that he's charging back to the taxpayer. That is number one. Out of every member of Congress, he has spent more money with your dollars than any member of Congress. Yet he criticized his opponent 2 years ago, saying he wouldn't do something like that. And here he is, just 2 years later. That's all it took, 2 years later. And he's become one of them.
1 minute goes to Mr. Schilling.
I'd like to make a good commercial, but here's the facts. We spent less than 50 cents per constituent. I'm going to tell you a true story. I had a constituent that because of the flyers we got, her dad was in a bus accident over in Mexico. And what happened was they said that he had a concussion, he was going to be fine. Well, what they were doing is they were trying to milk the family out of thousands and thousands of dollars. The family went over there, got to see Dad, and realized how bad it was. Our office, thank God that we sent those flyers out, because our office was able to get on the phone, continue to call day after day, get that guy airlifted out of Mexico back to Texas to the United States of America. December 23rd last year, I got to go see this person. The daughter comes up with tears in her eyes and says, "Thank you for saving my dad's life." Sherry, I don't know how much dollar value you would put on the life of a United States citizen, but for me, I'm not going to do that.
Question number 4, court decision that struck down most of Arizona's Show Me Your Papers. Can I ask the question, everyone? Thank you. All right, I'll start again. We good? We ready? All right. There was a recent Supreme Court decision that struck down most of Arizona's Show Me Your Papers bill, SB 1070, for unfair and discriminatory provisions. What is your opinion of this ruling? How do communities avoid hostile environments and extreme immigration practices that impact our schools, economy, and healthcare? Mr. Schilling, 1 minute.
This goes right back to the fact that both Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. need to have the adults sit-down conversation of getting this fixed. Look, it's upheld by the Supreme Court. You've got people, here's one of the problems, a lot of folks that are against immigration reform, is that you got people that are out there, good people here, and then you have the bad players coming in and infiltrating these folks to where they're doing bad things, robbing them, doing whatever. This is something that we've got to get fixed, and it's going to take both parties. You know what? It's going to be one of those deals where there's going to probably be a lot of things in there that every American out there might not like one piece of it, but it's about doing the right thing and getting immigration reform on the table as grown-ups and getting the right thing done for the folks that want to live the American dream, just like each and every one of us have had the opportunity to do. I remind my opponent here is the fact that the dysfunction is actually in the U.S. Senate leadership. Over 40-some bipartisan documents sitting there, no budget for over 1,000 days. It was this Congress that got the 2-year transportation bill after being on 9 extensions since 2009. We can try to point fingers, but the finger pointing needs to go over to the United States Senate, where I would say it's probably going to go down in history as the most dysfunctional Senate in the history of the United States of America. It's about doing the right thing and getting this. Look at all of us here in this room. We're struggling around our dinner tables, trying to figure out how we're going to make ends meet. But yet the United States Senate is sitting down in dysfunction, and they won't even bring a budget to the floor. They won't do it. The president's budget got 0 votes from the House and the Senate. So, we can talk about dysfunction, but this House actually got some things done. And
thank you, sir. Some interesting answers here. All right, so I'll go ahead and ask the question to Mr. Schilling. And you know what? How about we do 2 minutes for each answer? All right? So we'll do 2 minutes for each answer, and we'll still stick with 1 minute for rebuttals. So since it's the last question of the night, so let me ask the question. Given the complexities of the federal and state healthcare reforms, what are some of the key issues and measures that you support? What measures are you against, and what are your alternatives?
Very good. First, we start with the good. A couple of things that I like. Pre-existing condition clause, which allows a patient to carry over, if you lose your job or you move jobs, you have a pre-existing condition, you can have that coverage. Since 50% of the American college kids coming out of college today can't find work, I think it's a really good idea we have on mom and dad's plan until at least 26 years old. That's the good things. The things we've got to fix, my opponent says we've got to move on. Well, let me tell you about what she means by move on. There's the Independent Payment Advisory Board that's in there, and that's the folks that are the unelected bureaucrats that are going to dictate whether you get the health care you need. They're there to ration health care. The medical device tax that will cost America around 43,000 jobs. Another incentive that my opponent pushes for to ship more American jobs overseas. Look, we've got Cook Medical Group here in our district. Mr. Cook invented the heart stent. Wanted to build one facility each and every year. Well, guess what? Because of the medical device tax, it actually equals out to about 10% of their money. They put it all on hold. That's wrong. We've got to get to the point to where we're talking about health care. Look, I've got some ideas. One of the ideas what we have to focus in on is we've got to have some tort reform. We have to have tort reform. Secondly, we need to let insurance companies compete across state lines. And thirdly, what I have is a plan. It's a charitable plan so that when the doctor takes that patient in that doesn't have hardly any money, they can give free service to that person. At the end of the year, they can write it off of their taxes. It's the right thing to do, and every doctor that I know, they're very compassionate and they would love to help, but they would also like to stay in business. So my bill does exactly that. It incentivizes them to help with those vulnerable amongst them.
Thank you. Would you like a 1-minute rebuttal?
Yeah, and I'm sorry about your brother. My mother died of breast cancer also in 2001. And thank goodness that she was able to get some of the health care that she needed from the insurance company. But I agree. This is what there's so much more that we agree upon when it comes to reforming the system. When we do this, what we got to have is we've got to have both parties. The way it was done, I think most people in this room would agree, it wasn't the way we do things here in the United States of America. It was done with no amendments allowed on the House floor. Most of it was done behind closed doors with special deals. Look, we got to put the party politics to the side on a lot of the issues we've got going on here. And you know what? If we don't worry about who gets credit for getting things done, it's like Ronald Reagan said, we can get a lot of things done here in the United States of America. So thank you.
These people are wonderful to work with. And let me tell you, we agree with one goal is perfect. And that's for us to be the best that we can give back to our community. Thank you. And I want to thank Blackhawk College. The students did a fabulous job. How about the timekeepers? I congratulate each and every one of you for all the effort. Greg, some words from you.
Thank you, Maria. There's a few candidates here that we forgot to mention, and I would like to recognize the candidates and elected officials who are here tonight. Please stand as your name is called. Joe Van Blaricombe, Gary Westbrook, Mike McCall, Jane Reinhardt Martin.
Yeah, very good.
Good to see you, brother.